Welcome to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, the show with business titans sharing their stories of the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite glass of whiskey, and listen to the real and raw stories of these industry leaders. Now, here's your host, the man, the myth, the legend, the most interesting marketer, Jacob Fail.
What's up, everybody? It's Jacob Fail, the most interesting marketer, CEO and founder of Brute Media Group, and the host of the Whiskey with Winners podcast. I want to thank you for being on our episode today and joining them. We have a very special guest today. We have the CEO and founder of Pavlok. He's been featured on Shark Tank. He's been on ABC. He's been on, his product's been featured on the Colbert Report, and also he's been on Steve Harvey. He went to Stanford. He's done tons and tons of incredible things in his life. And he's also authored 4 books, one which was an international bestseller. So I want to thank my friend Maneesh and welcome Maneesh Sethi onto the show.
More about you and about your backstory. So tell us about your story growing up. Did you grow up in America, or what caused you to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I grew up in California. So I grew up in Sacramento, about 2 hours away from San Francisco. And I grew up to Indian parents who were immigrants. They had an arranged marriage. So like my mom and dad met each other 3 days before they got married. My dad was already studying here.
Yeah.
My dad was already studying here in America, and then he flew back to meet his wife, got married, and then came back to America. And so I grew up here. I have an older brother and 2 older sisters, and definitely, my older brother was entrepreneurial. You might know him. He's Maneesh Sethi from IWillTeachYouToBeRich.com. And so he was very, very influential. And so growing up, though, I was always really interested in video games. So I liked when I was very young. And my parents they wouldn't give us any money as kids. Like we couldn't, they just didn't do that.
Right.
And so when I was very young, I started always being entrepreneurial. I would take the books from our house and sell them on the street as like a 25-cent book drop. And then I started buying video games on one website and then reselling them on eBay for a profit when I was like 10 or 9 years old. And so one of these games I decided to play. It was called Age of Empires. And I love that game so much that I decided to start trying to make games. So when I was young, I started learning how to make games, and I went to one of these. There's a conference being run by one of these, by my hero, this guy who taught people how to make video games. And so I convinced my parents to let me go to this conference. I was 13. I was like 12 years old at this point. And they took me to this conference. I was the youngest kid there, by far. And so the next night, I wrote on the forum of my hero at that point. I said, "Hey, everybody, it was really nice to meet you. I saw that you're hiring authors for a new book series. I would love, I was the kid, the 12-year-old. It was so nice of you all. Maybe do you think someday I could write a book? Maybe like game programming for teenagers or something?" And my hero wrote back to me, "We'll never hire anybody who's younger than 25 to write a book. You're not smart enough, you're not dedicated enough, and you'll never get it done."
Dang.
And I think that if you take the personality of entrepreneurial people, some types of people would take that as they get very sad or emotional because of that. Instead, I took it as a challenge. And I think I must have been 12 or 13 at this point. I sat down, I said, F this guy. And I sat down in a room for 5 days. And I wrote 80 pages of a book in 5 days. And I submitted it above his head, and I pretended to be an adult, and I got a book deal signed at 13. And this book it was called Game Programming for Teens. And it took off. It sold I think 100,000 copies. It got me a TV show on the Tech TV, G4 TV, teaching young people how to make video games. I came on when I was 16. Wow. And it kind of became like the foundation for my life, because programming was what I did as a kid, but really it was teaching, but really it was identifying the techniques that got me to do stuff.
Right.
Because it took me 4 days to write pages to get that book deal signed, but it took me 2 years to write the next 80 pages. because I no longer
Right.
had the challenge of wanting to beat this guy. Does that make sense?
Right.
I hope you can hear me. It feels like there might be lag.
Yeah, no, I can hear you. Yeah, you're good.
All right,
I can
great.
hear you.
And so throughout history, throughout my life, I think that's been a consistent recurring motif in understanding that there are things that motivate some people and motivate other people. And people, like, I think entrepreneurs by definition, on average, there's a lot of types of entrepreneurs. There's a lot of types of people, but they really fall into these two categories. There's like the type of personality that's a finisher, and there's a type of personality that's a starter. There's this type A, type B. It's like a perceiver or a judger in Myers-Briggs. It's like high levels of conscientiousness or low levels of conscientiousness in the big five. And people who are finishers are the ones who, when they're given a task list, they finish the task list and then they're done and they feel free. And they feel stressed leaving stuff undone. They feel very stress-free when they don't have anything left to do. Those are finishers. And then there's starters, and those are people who feel very uncomfortable. They feel stressed about finishing things. The act of finishing things hurts. It makes it feel like they're giving up potential, like they're limiting their options. And I think that this perceiver type likes to take in more and more information, and it really, really hates to execute upon those actions. And those people we tend to classify as ADHD, or we classify them as having a disorder, or we classify them as being broken, or we classify them as having a problem. And like, if only they focus, they could get so much done. And we make them feel broken from childhood, but those people are but there's one highly correlated positive trait about these people, and that's that they have extremely high levels of creativity. Finishers are good at getting stuff done, but starters are necessary to know what things should be done. And when you partner those two people together, you create companies that are much greater and products that are much more powerful than any one of those two people could do on their own. The combination of those two personalities is like putting a hunter and a gatherer together. You create much larger things than one individual could do alone. So, I mean, that's kind of my entrepreneur journey started there from this whole thing. But like, to get closer to what I do now, eventually I started doing a blog, a travel blog called Hack the System, where I would go to new countries. My readers would vote where I would go and what I would do. Every 3 to 6 months, I moved to a new country. My favorite one was I moved to Berlin. Nice. I had a 90-day challenge to become a famous DJ in Berlin. So we tried to hack the Berlin DJ scene by basically renting clubs and positioning ourselves as the openers, and then creating a fake booking agency that represented us. That was us calling up clubs around Europe saying, "Hi, I represent DJ Maneesh. He has 50,000 fake Facebook fans, and he was able to, and would you like to book him?" Within 30 days, we were being flown around Europe, playing shows for over 500 people. And that was the experience. And so around, that was in 2011. So about 2012, I started doing a series of productivity articles. So I talked about how to get fit. I lost like 25 pounds in a month. And I talked about how to be productive. And I talked about how I did an experiment where I realized that, and every time I went on Facebook, she slapped me in the face. That was the experiment I ran. So I hired this girl on Craigslist. Her job was to slap me whenever I went on Facebook. And I wrote, in 4 days, I wrote 4 months of content. Because usually I'll start writing and then I tab over to Facebook, and then I tab over to chat, and then I check my phone. But when she was with me, every time I would start doing that, she'd tap me on the shoulder and be like, "Maneesh, come on, Maneesh, come on, Maneesh, come on." She only slapped me twice. But the act of having a human being that was holding me accountable in the moment created huge ramifications. So I posted an article about this. I called "Why I Hired a Slapper on Craigslist to slap me in the face and how it quadrupled my productivity." And apparently the word slapper in England means prostitute. I didn't know that. And so the Daily Mail they laughed at that pun. They made a big article about it. So I went to sleep and I woke up to like 80 missed calls. I woke up to a call from NPR being like, "Excuse me, are you Maneesh, the guy who hired a slapper on Craigslist?"
That's crazy.
And so for 3 days, I was famous. I was being called by Anderson Cooper. I was on NPR. I was on ABC. I was on every news program and radio program, podcast you could think of for 3 days. And then on day 4, it was gone. I was no longer famous. Nobody cared anymore.
5 minutes of fame.
Yeah, exactly. And so I talked to a few friends. I talked to a few people, a few of my mentors, and I asked, like, how could we take this to the next level? what's the next step to make this
Right.
go viral again? And so I settled on the idea of buying a dog shock collar and hooking it up so every time I went on Facebook, it would zap me. It would shock me on Facebook. I called a friend who knew hardware and asked him if we could do this. And he said, yeah, man, let's go to Radio Shack. So we bought a dog shock collar. We bought this little thing called an Arduino. We basically plugged the remote control of the dog shock collar into your computer. So every time I went on Facebook, it turned on the remote control. And then I just wrapped the collar on my arm. And 8 hours later, we had this little micro prototype. And I made a video about it. It was hilarious. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I was about to post this video online. I knew it would go viral. And then I thought to myself, this is actually really interesting. There's a million wearables out there that track what you do, but this one's actually changing what you do. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's something better here than a funny blog post. Maybe there's something that's deeper that could really help people. And so that became the idea for Pavlok. The first wearable that helps people break bad habits and become the kind of person they want to be. So yeah, that's how I got to here.
Nice. Yeah. And I
just want to say, basically,
I just want to say that I do love your product. I wear it all the time and it works.
Awesome.
And it helps me wake up. Like I'm not a early riser by any means. I'm normally a late night guy, but I wear it and use it to wake up every morning, and it definitely helps. So thank you for changing the way that, people, their habits and waking up and different things like that. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you for being a customer. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. So tell us a little bit about like Pavlok and what you do as far as, I know you change behaviors and you have it, I use it all the time, so I know, but for people that don't know what Pavlok is, it's based off of research studies, kind of like, I mean, the name's off of Pavlov sort of, which is catchy. I like that. And, just kind of tell them what your product does and how that it can, how that it can help them.
Sure. I mean, the core of our company is that we help people stop doing bad habits and help them start doing good habits. That's really what we do, right? And the core of the company is really just how do we make people not do what they feel good about in the moment, but make them do things that is actually good for them, and the better version of themselves. How do we make them become the kind of person they want to be? And we've broken that down to a few different goals, but there is the product as is, and then there's the product as it's becoming, and then there's the company that it is becoming. And those things are quite different, because this is not like a product that is done, in the sense that I'm not making a smartwatch that every year we add new sensors to it, but it's the same goddamn thing.
Right.
It's not that.
Right.
We're creating a system that is designed to revolutionize human behavior in a way that changes human behavior fundamentally. So the product that people know and the product that people see is Pavlok. It helps you wake up and it helps you quit bad habits. So what we have is this. So we're most well known for our waking up on time product. So it's called the Shock Clock, but Pavlok as well does this. And the product basically tracks your sleep cycles, and it gives you a light vibration in your light sleep to help you wake up. You then have about a minute to get out of bed and do jumping jacks, or else you get an electric zap. That's the core product that is really effective at waking people up. You might use it differently. I'm not sure if you use it to have you just zap you awake or have it vibrate.
Yeah, it just zaps me awake. Yeah, it just zaps the shit out of me as soon, and then I'll wake right up.
Yeah, so. Like it's surprising because like how when someone like heavy sleepers, even if you're heavy sleeper, if somebody taps, always wake up. For some reason, we continue to use sound as like the ultimate ideal of getting your attention, but we've really forgotten about touch. Touch is much more powerful than sound at getting someone's attention, because you don't filter touch out like you filter sound out. So anyway, at its core, I mean, the alarm clock is a function, and it's the most common one. And if the listeners are listening and you're a heavy sleeper, or you have trouble getting out of bed, or you have a significant other who's annoyed by the number of alarms you use, or you're hard of hearing, this is a product that's perfect for you. We have a lot of users who use it just as a silent alarm clock to make sure that their significant other doesn't wake up. But the real function of it is that it snaps you out of what you're doing instantly and brings you back into the present. So that same function of this, to be clear, there's like a vibration, there's a audio beeping sound, and then there's an electrical stimulus that we call a zap. And yeah, and they're all, the zap at very low levels feels like a tap on the wrist. At a high level, it starts to hurt quite a bit. I won't call it pain, I call it surprise. It just gets your attention. But the word zap, the word shock is a very loaded term. People are very scared of it, which makes me laugh. And this is what we're about to come to, about where we're going.
Right.
So yeah, if you guys want to wake up in the morning, get the Pavlok and the shock lock, that's what you want. That's cool. But it's funny because we've sold about 100,000 units. But every time I show the product to somebody, they're legitimately afraid. They're legitimately afraid of my product. Yeah. And I was like, at the beginning, that was funny. You know, it gets attention, right? But as we've matured, it's not so funny anymore. You know, it's not you don't want to sell a product that scares people, right? And there's this quote by this. Oh my gosh, there's a quote by a guy who he says that if let me look at this quote. It's worth it. He wrote this quote that says, if you want to teach people a new way of thinking, don't bother trying to teach them. Instead, invent a tool, the use thereof makes them learn these things automatically. You know what I mean? Like you can try to teach people on an online course how to make a funnel. You know, you can teach people for months how to make a funnel. But if you just invent ClickFunnels and automatically have a template, then people don't have to learn anymore. The tool just does it for them, right? You know, there's goods and bads about ClickFunnels specifically, but I'm just talking about the idea of creating a technology that makes things happen. And to me, it's very clear. Yeah, it's clear that the technology we're trying to build is something that enables human beings to have a fundamental good habit, like to make the habits be natural and automatic. And to me, there's the big 6 habits. I believe that if every single person in the world followed these 6 habits, that a large percentage would disappear and happiness levels would surge. And those 6 habits are, I think people should sleep at least 7 hours a night. I think they should drink 3 liters of water a day. I think they should exercise 3 times a week. I think that they should eat a relatively healthy diet. I think they should meditate once a day for 10 minutes. And I think that they should have a conversation with somebody that they like every single day. I think that if those 6 habits were solved by every single person, the majority of people would have a positive change in their life. And I can teach that every day. I could go out and write a book on that. I could go out and go give a speaking gig and go do lecture circuits, right? But no one's gonna fucking change. Nobody fucking changes from these books, right? What actually what actually might change people is fundamentally creating a technology or a system that makes it necessary or automatic. And to me, I think about what we're trying to do. At our company, the fundamental is like the first step for us is breaking bad habits that hold you back. And I think that we've solved that problem. The next step is to form the good habits which make you become who you could be. And that's what we're about to talk about now. And the third step is to integrate humans and technology in a way that we're able to learn and understand data subconsciously. And that's where we're going. So step 2 is where we're at right now, which is how do we help people form good habits? So what I've learned over and over again throughout my experiences with hundreds of thousands of users is that negative reinforcement is really good at making a habit start, like a zap or a penalty. But you need a positive reinforcer to make habits stick. You need a positive reinforcer to make habits stick. And if you read these books, people will always talk about positive reinforcement, and they use, I mean, there's a lot of types of positive reinforcement. There's a pat on the back. There's giving yourself a cookie. There's thinking, like having a conversation with a friend. But I think the most fundamentally interesting positive reinforcer in the world that makes people do the craziest habits, if you think about it rationally, is money. Think about money. You get rewarded for money, right? Think about a barista at a cafe. The habit that barista has is 8 hours a day. They go and stand on their feet and they make coffee for strangers repetitively all day, and they never stop until 8 hours later, and then they come back. That's a habit. Right. It's a habit that an accountant goes into an office and sits there on an Excel spreadsheet every day for 8 hours a day and does math. That's a habit. But no one ever talks about the positive reinforcer is actually a fundamental system. It's actually money. And so to me, the right way to fundamentally change the way that people act is to reinvent money. And so to me, the system is broken but fixable. And what we're trying to do with Pavlok is reinvent money such that you get paid for doing good habits. So Pavlok used to be at Zap doing bad habits, and now Pavlok is get paid for doing good habits. So we created a subscription program. It's called Pavlok Subscription. We got a fucking better name. But we just started testing this very recently. So the idea was, we started testing this very quietly and you probably yourself haven't heard about this. Because we just started doing a very simple test. What happens if we offered Pavlok, instead of paying $150 up front, what if you paid $29 a month to rent it, and you cancel it by mailing it back? So we did a small test here, and instantly we started getting hits. We got now about 50% of our daily sales are people who are paying us $29 a month, and they rent the product, and then they cancel by mailing it back. Two things are really interesting. Number one is that it's like much cheaper to get, like it's easier because it's much less scary investment. It's only $29. So sales happen faster. Number two is that no one wants to mail things back. So the little bit of added friction creates a lot larger churn. But the most beautiful part of this model is that we have a consistent, predictable revenue stream each month. And to me, that was the fascinating part about this is everything I just told you is just what Pavlok is, the same one that you have. No one, including you, knows what's about to come. And we're about to launch what we're calling internally the Habit Lottery. So instead of simply wearing a Pavlok, we are taking the subscribers and we're doing our first test starting in 2 weeks, where we're creating a lottery where every 1,000 steps that our users walk, they earn a lottery ticket each day, up to 20 a day. And at the end of every day, we pick a number out of a hat, and the lottery winner wins up to $1,000 cash just for having walked enough steps.
Right.
We're trying, and our goal is that as we grow, we basically take our subscriber fees, which is $30 a month, and we divide that in half, $15 out a month per person. We give back to the client base. So, for example, if we have 100,000 customers, we've already sold 100,000 units at full price. If we have 100,000 customers who are paying $30 a month, that's $3 million in revenue a month. And we take that $3 million and we give away 1.5 million of it back to the customers. We'll give 0.5 million as small amounts, but we have one grand prize of $1 million. So someone is going to go to the gym and someone's going to be meditate
working out days.
And then, someone at random, I mean, he did the habits, so it's not random, is going to do these things. And then suddenly they're going to get a knock on the door and there's going to be a giant check and a celebrity holding a
publisher clearinghouse.
Publishers clearinghouse style, like, congratulations, can you believe it? You made it. You won $1 million. How did you do it? Oh my God, I've always wanted to meditate and exercise, and Pavlok helped me meditate and exercise. And I won $1 million, but I also lost 10 pounds. Every single month, we're going to have a new user who won the $1 million prize, right? But also, each individual user will start earning prizes as they do it in a variety of ways. We're trying to get there, and the details are coming. But I think the most interesting one is this big grand prize. And I think that this idea of fundamentally shifting the mindset away from towards getting rewarded with cash to do good habits starts to become the next step, which is like, ultimately, by the time I die, I would like it so that any user in the world is able to walk 10,000 steps and then go up to any restaurant that has a Visa or Amex terminal and put their wrist up to the terminal and be able to spend their steps on a healthy food item.
That'd be awesome.
And so I would like to make it so they healthy food items, they get discounted. That's the goal. So we make it so that you're like, right now you get discounts if you eat unhealthy. And I would like to make it so you get discounts for eating healthy. I would like to make it so that you get paid extra money if you meditate, not extra money by staying late at work. And I think that is a next step of where we're going. So that's where Pavlok, the Pavlok subscribers right now, if you check out pavlok.com, you'll see this $30 opportunity. And if you sign up for that, that's how you join this challenge, and you can start winning money. And right now is a good time to get in on it because there's not that many users, so you have much higher chances of winning. Yeah, and then the place that we're actually ending up and trying to go is creating new sensory inputs and new ways to experience the world. So I found this really really interesting when I was a DJ. I found it really powerful how you could adjust the emotions in a room by changing the lighting and changing the sounds and sometimes changing the smells. And I think about how it would be amazing to have a music festival where the price to get in is a pound. Now it's just like any other music festival, except that you can feel the music on your wrist. You can feel the vibrations and the touch of the sound. I would like you to be able to go to a movie, and as the scary scenes are occurring, your wrist goes boom, boom, boom. I would like you to play laser tag, and somebody has already created this. Play laser tag or play video games, and every time you get shot in the game, you get a zap, and every time you get your friend, they get a zap. I think that creating a new way to experience data, and then most importantly, I'd like to create a new way of experiencing data. And I think that, like, you know, when you learn someone's name, if you hear it, maybe you learn it. If you see it, maybe you learn it. But if you hear it and see it, you're much more likely to remember.
Right.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the way that people learn is through multiple sensory inputs. And so I believe that a really fundamental way to help people learn, and I think of this more for younger people, especially children. I think adults might be resistant to this concept, but I think for children, it should be very simple. When I want to create a smartwatch for children, where children, like a habit training smartwatch for children, where kids get rewarded for doing good habits, and they have like this flashcard learning app where they like A is for apple, and they'll see the A, they'll see the apple, they'll hear the word apple, and then they'll get a Morse code of apple on their wrist. And they'll be able to actually learn Morse code and feel it through touch, and learn words through 3 or 4 sensory inputs, and then be able to learn and be able to receive text messages that Morse code their wrist, be able to receive information and reminders through Morse code, a silent way that allows them to experience information and learn faster without it being one of the standard ways. So I view the third stage of Pavlok as creating new ways to deliver information through sensory input. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, I think that's going to be awesome whenever you come, like, everything comes full circle. And I believe that with 5G coming out, once that's fully rolled out everywhere, that's going to help you a ton. If you make it 5G accessible and be able to connect with everything that's all around, I think that would make, things super easy for you to do that.
It's true that the environment is making it easier and easier, in the sense that, like, none of this would be possible before smartphones, right? So all this requires, like, Bluetooth just came out like 7 years ago, which is crazy. So, like, and Bluetooth Low Energy came out like 5, 6 years ago. Right? Like, the smartphone's only 11 years old. It blows my mind. And and so all this stuff is very new. And so, you can't make these things before the environment supports it. But the environment is rapidly getting better and better and better. And the thing is that, like, if you're a consistent, normal, I think is like look at these things. These are really, really. Let me give you an example. I met this. I was at CES, which is Consumer Electronics Summit in Las Vegas, one of the biggest electronic shows. And we were there. Pavlok was there, and we were standing next to this other company. This was 2015. And we were standing next to 2016. Anyway, we were standing next to this company called Braggy. And Braggy had these waterproof in-ear earphones that you could wear and swim with them. This was well before AirPods came out. And so we're sitting there with this electric zap device. And Braggy has a huge line of people behind it. Everyone wants to try out these products, right? And at our product, we got a lot of people were intrigued, but most people didn't want to get zapped, and people weren't sure about it. And so, they won like a bunch of awards, and we won nothing, except the U.S. News and World Report wrote 5 worst things I saw at CES, and we were in that article.
Yeah.
And so what happens though is Braggy's like a small company, so it had a couple of delays. And by the time they shipped their product to their backers, AirPods were already out. AirPods were already shipping. Who's going to buy a Braggy when they can buy the same thing that's by AirPods? And now I bought the same thing, and these are honestly better sound quality, in my opinion, than AirPods. And these are only $40 on Amazon. There's some off-brand called Tozo, because the idea is so obviously good. In-ear Bluetooth headphones is an obvious idea. It's so good that you're going to have competition. Great ideas are not good ideas. Great ideas have 50% of people thinking you're fucking nuts. Great ideas are where 50% of people they're not sure. They're going to wait for someone else to make it because they're not sure, right? Because if you make a great idea, then half of the people are going to think you're nuts. Otherwise, otherwise it's just a good idea and you better execute because someone else is going to copy of you.
Right.
So
same thing like Elon Musk
that,
and Tesla.
I think about that a lot that if you're creating a product, good.
I was saying same thing like Elon Musk and Tesla, about how like everybody talks about him, you know, but it's a great product.
Yeah, exactly. I think that Tesla, I mean, he's such an obvious innovator visionary. It's crazy. There's a really good book called 0 to 1, and it's by Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel talks about how most people think about competition, like you want to find a total market size and like create your competition matrix. And how can you against competition? You're basically building a better mousetrap, like you're a faster delivery service, or you're going to deliver food and also like drive people around, right? And these are these are like 1 to 1.1 companies. They're a little better. But there's another kind of company, a 0 to 1 company, where the founders have this initial data node. They have this intuition that there's something wrong in a marketplace. Like the marketplace is looking the wrong way about a specific problem. And they believe the whole market is looking the wrong way. No one can see it. And so these founders start creating this new marketplace. They create this new solution that addresses creating a new problem, solving, like inventing, or at least letting the world know that there is a problem. And when these founders unveil this problem to exist, and the founders unveil that this intuition is correct, there's this entire pasture of brand new, of green grass that is completely open that other people will start to build on. And that's like, you know, Airbnb reveals that there is a way to let your houses be rented out by individuals. And now millions of people are building their lives on Airbnb. Google reveals that there's a way to create a search intent keyword and not a what do you call it, a database driven search engine. Instead, it's a search intent link. And suddenly there's a billion companies coming out that use Google AdWords, right? And then Facebook reveals that there's a way to connect people through the internet that's like in the system they created, and now people are building their businesses on that platform. And to me, it seems like great companies in their early days are extremely misunderstood because you wouldn't think people would do that. Like you just wouldn't think people would do that. And those are the companies that, I mean, not a lot of those companies are also shit, but a lot of those companies can be very, very good. So in my opinion, you know, we'll find out. I've been saying this for 5 years though, and like this year, you know, I've gone through many, many years of having trouble and not being sure. How long have you been a Pavlok customer?
Probably 6 months, 8 months, roughly.
Okay, you're new. Yeah, I've been a Pavlok customer for a long, long time. I mean, I've been making Pavlok for about 6-7 years. And if you watch Shark Tank, you'll see what people thought, right? Like people thought I was insane.
Right. We'll get into that in a minute. I want to talk about that a little bit, but
yeah, for sure. But to me, it seems like this is the first year, and I'll tell you this. I have like a theme of the year, and my theme this year is to stop being as humble as I usually am. Usually, I'm very, very. But you know, we'll see. I'm not sure if I'm right. I'm not sure. I better be like, I don't want to show off. That's my typical. I typically filter what I say because I feel uncomfortable being not humble. But my theme this year is big dick energy, because I'm fucking sure I'm right. This year is like, it's confidence without being cocky. I'm 100% sure that what we're doing is working. I proved it out to both the world. I proved it out to myself. I proved it out to having 100,000 customers. And, you know, you can't catch me at this point. So in my opinion, like, this is what is happening. And so, you know, either get on the train or don't. But like, you know, do you want to be, do you want to buy Bitcoin at $100, or do you want to buy it at $10,000? You know, like in my opinion, this is like, this is happening, and it's crazy. So that's where I'm at.
That's awesome. So yeah, that's it. There's big things for sure coming for Pavlok. I can see it with your vision and what you're saying, and I can definitely see that could be in every single household. You know, you're sitting there watching your TV with your wife, and different things, you know, start happening with your wrist, and just the whole like the whole picture is there for me, and I'm glad you shared that with us. So what I want to talk about now is like, what's been some of the biggest struggles with you? Because I mean, making wearables, starting from nothing and then creating a wearable. I mean, digital products are a different thing, but going to an actual physical product, with science, back data and trying to create this whole company. Like, tell us about some of the struggles that you've had in the past and, what you've faced. And then, we'll kind of segue into the Shark Tank stuff and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I've talked a lot about, or I've written a lot about the struggles of building a hardware company. I've been very, very resistant to taking venture capital. If you look at most hardware companies, like Pebble was the first smartwatch. They raised something like $100 million or something dollars. If you look at right now, like the Oura Ring, which is a fantastic product, they've raised $40 million. There's a band called the Whoop Band. They've raised $110 million. Fitbit raised in the 200s, I think, $1 million. Yeah. And all these companies are raising, we're talking minimum is 10 million. I've never seen a wearable company raise less than 10 million. We've raised $50,000. So we raised 50,000, and that was the first amount of money we took. And then they started pushing me to take VC capital. They kept pushing me to take VC capital. And I remember having a conversation. I don't know, this is boring. My point is, like, I felt very uncomfortable with the terms of venture capital, which was the act of giving up freedom in order to try to create something that, let me explain it this way. When you are starting your own business, things are changing a lot. You're very agile. Sometimes you're making a wearable that helps people quit smoking, but then you pivot to making an alarm clock, and then you pivot to making a cryptocurrency, but you realize that was a mistake. So you go back, don't create crypto, and you focus on waking people up early. And then you try to help people form good habits, and then suddenly it clicks. And it just clicked when we started doing the subscription program. Just clicked, right? And if I had taken money in the early days, you take money from investors with the requirement that you send monthly updates and quarterly KPI updates, and you have board meetings every quarter, and you have to set in stone what you're doing. And specifically, you have to raise more money, because VC needs your valuation to increase. They do not want profitability. They want a company where the valuation increases, which means you're spending more money. The goal is growth and size, not profitability, And to me, that seemed kind of crazy, because if your company is not sustainable at 1,000 units a month, how are you going to be sustainable at 1 million units a month? I'll be honest, I don't think my product is amazing right now. The product you have on your wrist, you might notice, looks very different than the product on my wrist. That silicone band is a piece of shit. I hate that silicone band. The problem was that as we made this band, which is much, much nicer, and sorry we don't ship it anymore, there was like a large defect rate on this product, right? So we had to go back to what had like the product that worked. But unfortunately, I mean, that product is a little uncomfortable. I mean, I think you would agree with me. It's not the most comfortable band in the world. And why is there no screen on the product? It's a fucking clock. Shouldn't there be a goddamn screen on that product? It's ridiculous. And so, like, if I were to raise, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. If I was to raise money as a venture capitalist, you have to make your decision in the early days, and then you have to fucking do it. You don't have time to fix product. You have to focus on growth. You don't have time to do R&D. You have to focus on growth. And that's why if you look at like Fitbits, they have the same fucking product every year. Nothing over and new. Over, same product every year. GoPro, same product every year. Nothing new. No. And to me, we had Apple Watch. Apple Watch is ridiculous. Same product every year. And so to me, I did not yet have product market fit. So to me, it was a matter of solving this problem. And at the end of the day, it comes down to two things. How do you reduce your expenses and increase your revenue? Like, that's it. How do you make sure your cash flow is coming in? Oh, and also one other layer, and that's a magical layer called time. No one talks about it. No one talks about the cash conversion cycle. Like, I learned this very quickly, or 2 to 3 years before I learned this. I had a friend of mine. He created these really cool products. I think they were smart gloves. And he sold it into Walmart. And it took off. It became one of Walmart's biggest selling products in the smart category. And it sold so fast that he was bankrupt in 6 months. Think about that for a second. His product sold so well, he went bankrupt. Why is that? It's because the way that his terms were set up. So he paid his suppliers on day 0. Then the suppliers would ship it from China to America and ship it to Walmart. And then Walmart would pay him 60 days later after the product sold. So the faster he sold his units, the more money he would lose. He would pay money on day 0 and get paid on day 120. So the faster he sold, the faster he would lose. Now,
right.
Like if you have the only 2 ways around that is there's 2 ways to fix that. One is to have huge cash reserves until you start making enough that it's able to cover it. Or number 2 is to renegotiate your payment terms. So I heard this, but he ended up like, we didn't have enough money. Then his credit score dropped because he spent all his credit. Then no one would give him a loan. He couldn't get a bridge loan. His company went bankrupt. He walked away, right? Jeez. And I learned a lot from that story because I used to have the same problem. I remember this one Thursday I woke up. It was the 28th of the month. And I wake up in the morning and I was like, fuck, we're bankrupt. We're done. I'm out of cash. We're done. Yeah. And I go to eat breakfast and I buy a full pizza for myself. And I'm lactose intolerant. I don't eat pizza. Right. And I fucking am crying. I'm crying as I eat this pizza because I'm like, we're out of money. Our company is dead. I'm not going to be able to pay my staff on Monday. And then 2 days later, a wire transfer from Amazon arrives for exactly the amount I needed. Magical wire transfer for exactly the amount I needed. And I thought to myself, that's ridiculous, but also weird and not just, it's too coincidental. And then I thought to myself, this has been happening every month, but this was the big one, right? What is going on? And I realized that my suppliers were on net 60 terms. So I would pay them 60 days after I sold the product. And after I was and Amazon was also on net 60 terms, paying me 60 days later, but there was a 3-day shipping gap. The gap was creating the problem. So there's 2 ways to solve this problem. One was for me to try to hustle, get more revenue, and try to take loans and try to get debt. Or another was to pick up the phone and say, hey guys, I need a net 63 terms, and it fixed the company.
Right.
You know what I mean? Small change fixed the company. So getting back to your point, I've learned very quickly that like when you're creating a company and a product, focusing on profit. I mean, and people have different goals. You know, everybody's got different goals. But to me, my goal was how do we make our product and company sustainable first, and get ourselves to profitability before we start to try to scale and do the stuff I wanted to do. That's why Pavlok 2 is using the same wristband as Pavlok 1 because I didn't have the cash to be able to create a new design. You know, the first Pavlok 1 cost $1.2 million to make, and that was very difficult to come up with. And you know, it took me multiple years of pre-selling the product and delaying the product, and then it really came to a T in August of it was June of 2018, 2 years ago. Pavlok 2 was shipping. Spent all our money in inventory, and one of our suppliers called us up and told us that he couldn't deliver our batteries and he needed 3 extra months to ship. And I said, "What the fuck are you talking about? 3 months of no inventory? Damn. I have no money already, and now you're telling me that I can't even. I have nothing to sell. I have nothing to sell." Nothing at all to sell. And so quickly, I was like running out of money. Quickly, I grossed a lot of credit card debt. I was already in debt. I was already spending a lot. And I had a lot of employees. I had 15 employees this time. And I remember I got to Budapest, and I check in at Budapest. I check in to my Airbnb, and I go to an ATM to withdraw some money, and my card is there's no cash in account. It's declined. And then I check my credit cards. I have 7 credit cards. 100% of them are maxed out. And it was a Friday. I was in a new country, and I had no access to capital whatsoever, and until Monday. And the first thing I did is I went to a grocery store and I stole a loaf of bread and a bottle of mustard. I had to steal it because I had nowhere else to go. Don't worry, I went back later and paid. But like, I took this bowl of and I got back like fucking Aladdin. I'm in my apartment with this like stolen loaf of bread. Let's figure this shit out. We got to figure it out. And so it was like, it was very clear. It was very clear. We had too many expenses. We had too many employees. I had to let I called my employees and I'm like, look, guys, you can keep working if you want, but I legitimately cannot afford to pay you anymore. Like, I don't think I think we should just, part ways. We got to walk away. And so we went from 15 employees to 5. I shut down the Boston office and made our company to come focus on how do we get ourselves back into okayness. And it took 6 months. 3 months later, the inventory started to arrive. Then we started doing wholesale deals where we would only sell to customers who buy at least 150 units at a time. And we slowly went like climbed our way out of the hole. So like in 2017, we lost $400,000 in net loss. In 2018, which was this year, the year I'm mentioning right now, we broke even.
Right.
We broke even flat. We were like 5 figures profitable, like very small, but it was still profitable. Big deal to me. 5 figures is better than 0 figures. And then last year we were $400-something thousand profitable. Like last year, I proved to everybody, I proved to myself, and I proved to the world that this is a sustainable business, that is a profitable business, and the next now it's a machine. So now we have this baseline of what success was, which is existing. And then the next step is how do we convert a successful business into a sustainable business? And that's what the subscription model is about. How do we convert having a little bit of profit into, how do we convert profit into sustainable cash flows? So then that's what recurring subscription models allow you to do. So creating, like, I know what our churn rate is. You know, it's pretty early, so I don't have full details, but I know that we have X number of customers coming in a month, and I know that Y percentage of them are going to quit, but the remainder will continue to pay each month, and therefore I know how much money I'll have next month. And so I'm kind of just blurting out and talking about a lot of stuff right now, but I find that
no, you're good.
I find that like creating a sustainable business requires kind of understanding, you know, it depends on your level of what you're trying to build and sell. But I think at the core, at the end of the game, like a lot of people going out there looking for investment or looking for investors without like really building proof of concept that they have a sustainable business are really destined to fail, because the best way to kill a company is to over fundraise. And the best way to kill a company is to over venture capitalize. And venture capital makes a lot of sense when you're putting fuel into the fire, but it doesn't make any sense when you don't have product market fit yet, or you know, it doesn't make very much sense depending on your business. Anyway, if you have any other questions about that, I'm happy to answer. I'm not sure I answered your question very well.
Yeah, that was awesome. So let's kind of segue into like some of the PR stuff that you've been in. So you've been on Steve Harvey, which was pretty awesome, and then you were also on probably one of the more controversial Shark Tank episodes. So kind of tell us about that. I mean, Kevin, Mr. Wonderful, he was cursing you out at the end of it, and it got kind of crazy there. So what, like, tell us tell us your story, your side of the story on that.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's what happened. I think I pitched it poorly. I think it's partially my fault, but it's also like partially, obviously, it's my responsibility to pitch well, and I didn't pitch it well. I pitched it from the angle of how much we could help people and the science behind the product, and I didn't pitch it with the mindset of like the story I should have told is the one I told you earlier, which is like I was having trouble focusing, so I hired someone to slap me in the face. That was my original pitch, and then I changed the pitch up to be like more about the science in the background. And Mark Cuban did not like it. He claimed that I was citing studies from the past. I showed like a list of evidence we were building our product on, these clinical studies that we were building our product on. And Cuban did not like it. He said some crazy stuff like, you're not allowed to use science from the past to back up your product. You have to run your own studies. And I was like, this is ridiculous. That's bullshit. Like, of course you
that doesn't make sense
from the past to back up your product. Most people don't use science at all. Well, earlier, I was telling some fucking like anti-hormonal like oatmeal cookie. I'm sure that there's no science on that. Like, what are you talking about? But you know, if you frame the conversation around science, then people are going to think about science. If you frame it around oatmeal cookies, they're going to think about oatmeal cookies. So I framed it poorly. And what I expected was that, the way I look at a Shark Tank is that it's like Lion King. Mark Cuban is Mufasa, Mr. Wonderful is Scar, and the other 3 are hyenas. They just follow the leader.
Right.
And so if you watch their faces early on as I'm doing my pitch, you can see all 3 of the sharks. I think it was Robert and the 2 girls, Barbara and
Lori. Yeah.
And they're like nodding their head, like interested in the idea. And then Mark Cuban's there, just like he was having a bad day. Everybody was saying the same thing every day. And so what I expected was that Mark Cuban was going to love it, and all of them would love it, and then I get offers from all of them, and then I would never do a deal with Mr. Wonderful. I decided that early on. And so I expected that I would turn him down because it would be I knew that going in I was going to turn him down. because he was on TV saying that 3 billion people making $1 a day is a good thing. And there's reports of him, how he made his money that were not very positive. And I would rather get married to the wrong person than get in a business deal with the wrong person. And so to me, he's not the right partner. And anyway, what happened though was it really backfired because Mark Cuban didn't like the idea. So all the 3 hyenas followed. And they didn't like the idea either. And then Mr. Wonderful was there like fucking Mr. Burns, like doing the like tackling. He offered me a deal. And the deal was okay. It was not that good a deal. It was a debt deal. But I said I'll take a deal. I said I won't take a deal. I don't think I can work with you. I don't think I can work with you. They pushed me and they made me look very bad with sound effects and zooming in. But I said I'll take a deal from anybody who's not Mr. Wonderful. And then Mr. Wonderful got very offended. You can kind of see him tear up and he says, "You know what, Maneesh? F you, Maneesh. F you, you a-hole."
Yeah.
There's the TV. So anyway, so that was what happened. And then, that's what happened. It is what it is. I think it was a net negative. I wish I had not gone on the show. I think that many people see that show and think of it as every time it re-airs, we get negative comments and reviews and stuff. 38 people left fake 1-star Amazon reviews that really hurt us.
So did you see a drop of sales whenever that aired or no?
I saw a medium sale increase the day of. I think we sold a week of revenue. And then it dropped pretty drastically after that because our Amazon reviews dropped and they weren't real. They were fake 1-star reviews.
Right. Dang, that's crazy.
It is what it is. There's nothing changed. It makes it, maybe if it was really positive, maybe people would copy my idea, maybe other stuff could happen. Like, and maybe it'll always be really good TV. And in the future, people will look back and see that. And, it's like right now, if your first exposure to the company is Shark Tank, you might I think if you watch it, did you see it before or after you bought the
product? It was after I bought the product. So yeah.
So how did you?
I had seen you on social media and the different stuff that you were doing, so I had a more personal connection with you versus like just Shark Tank. So I kind of knew, the Maneesh behind the product and behind the company versus what Shark Tank portrayed you as. Because they did portray you in a negative connotation, and I could see how that could have hurt your brand a little bit. And that's why it's so important to have you on these podcasts like this, so you can tell your side of the story. And
did it hurt your association? Did it hurt?
No, it didn't personally hurt my association
with me, or like do you think it maybe enforced it? Like, whoa, like I can't believe that happened. Like, badass.
Yeah, it was just kind of crazy the way that they. No, it didn't hurt my opinion of you at all. It was just kind of crazy the way that they handled the situation and the way that the turn. It was such a quick turn of events that it was just like, what just happened? That was my take on the whole situation.
I think a lot of people see it and they see Mark Cuban and they're like, I can't believe Mark Cuban said that. Like, it almost hurts their perception of Cuban sometimes from how he approached it, rather than so to me, it's like interesting because in a lot of ways it's like, yeah, okay, I can feel bad about the fact that that's going to hurt my brand from people who see that first. I think that assuming I win, assuming my product is great, we've sold 100,000 units since then, so it hasn't destroyed my company anyway. Then people will see me first, and then they'll see that, and they'll react to it differently. Because it's gonna be very different when you say, "Hey, I can't believe Maneesh is a con artist. He's a scammer." Except he's also very much proven that he's not. He's proven that he's successful and that his product works, and all of my friends use it. And actually, maybe Cuban is just wrong. In fact, maybe he's just maybe I should not support the Mavericks anymore. And so to me, it's like, it sucks in the short term, but in the long term, I think people will look back at it and say like, holy shit, that's a hell of an origin story. Like, Mark Cuban doesn't stop talking about me ever. Like, he fucking tweets and Instagram posts about me like at least twice a year. And I'm like, no, you're a billionaire. Like, you have no reason to remember me. But like, if you want to go to war with me, fine, you're going to promote my brand, and then eventually I'll be more you are, and then eventually I'll fucking buy the American Airlines Arena and make it Pavlok Arena, and then you can fucking have the Dallas Mavericks work out have to play in Pavlok Arena. So go fuck yourself. So here's what it is. You know, what do I gotta do? You want to buy a school or something? My name on it or something? Anyway, so like it is what it is.
That's the goal.
You know, yeah. No, it's one of those challenges. Remember, like I told you, my hero said I wasn't allowed to write a book. In the same way, like I want to antagonize him in a lot of ways. I'd like to go to war with him just because it's like it's a good competitive spirit. You know, Mark Cuban can be the Pepsi to my Coke. So I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, well, and I don't know. I've been thinking
and I find that a lot in a lot of entrepreneurs is they find something, you know, they have that chip on their shoulder. There's something that in the back of their mind, that something that's happened that drives you, and you have that driving force that makes you want to be better every single day. I mean, like that's a legitimate goal. You should be able to buy the stadium and put your name on it, you know? And, you know, kind of like Gary Vee and wanting to buy the New York Jets. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like, that's his big goal. Exactly. So I think everybody should have that goal.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on. So
but
I'm excited about it.
Right. So what, in your opinion, like from you hanging out with lots of other entrepreneurs, I know you've hung out with Richard Branson, you've been with Steve Harvey, you've been with Marie Forleo and Tim Ferriss and different people like that. So being around so many successful people, what stops people from getting to that success, or you know, people that fail, they quit too soon? What, like, in your opinion, what causes people, you know, what sets those people apart?
I mean, it depends on what you define as success, right? If you're talking about building a product or company that sells revenue that is high, which I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Then it comes down to I mean, at the end of the day, it's the thing you build, right? So, okay, mindset, sure. Yes. Fundamentally, mindset is like, mindset doesn't solve it. Mindset is just a base requirement. It's like, you know, competing at the CrossFit Games, like you better be able to bench 250. You better be able to bench 225, right? Otherwise, you're not competing. It's like such a baseline. Right. Like, yeah, okay. So if your mindset is in the shitter, like fix that. Like fix it. Now, I think that like different personalities have different mindsets, and mindsets are changeable, but only to a point. And I think that mindsets can be fixed, and I think that mindsets are often based around the people you hang out with, and around I think you are the average of the 5 people you're closest to is like a very true thing. The earlier you get started on it, the faster. I think that Pavlok actually is very helpful for changing negative thought patterns. You never catch yourself saying something you don't want to say or thinking something you don't want to think. You press the button, zap yourself, smile, and reinforce the positive thing you want to think or say. I do that a lot whenever I complain, whenever I have like a complaining thought, which really helps me reroute what I'm doing. But that said, okay, so mindset's such a fundamental. Yeah, okay, solve that problem. Like your mindset must be looking for potential and not worried about loss. Risk is no longer risky. My definition of risk after stealing bread from a grocery store, my definition of risk after being mugged 3 times in Brazil, my definition of risk after having a gun pointed at me in Colombia is so like ridiculously low. My definition of risk after living on $110 a month in India, like there's no way to fail in modern society. It's fucked up. Your worst case scenario is you go live at your parents' house for a few months while you watch Netflix and smoke weed. Like, go fuck you. Like the risk the risk 100 years ago was getting a goddamn Spanish influenza. 50% of people died of Spanish influenza. No one dies of this goddamn coronavirus. What is it? 3% of people who are all old and infirm. Like, like it's not risky. It's stupid. I want to go to China right now. I'm like, this is dumb. They're shutting down the fucking flights to China because I need to go make a deal. Anyway, it's ridiculous. People's versions of risk is okay. So like to me, it's like risk is no longer risky. So if you have fears of failure, you don't have the right mindset to get something big. Now, I'm not saying you can't be successful. There's a way to mitigate risk, but you must understand what risk really is. So like you have to get rid of the fear of failure. You have to jump to the next ledge if you want to get huge. Now that's different than getting medium or happy or big, right?
Right.
So my point here is fundamentally identifying. Okay, so even a step before that is creating your definitions of success. So if your version of success is $1 billion company, that's going to require a different mindset than if your definition of success is running your own, being able to quit your job and work for yourself as a freelancer, right? That's a very big, or if your definition of success is being able to work online and be able to travel while you work. Like those are different levels of risk and reward. So it's not very, like, it's much easier to, like, I'm at a co-working space in Bali where there's like 150 people here today that are all working online. So it's not like it's very hard to do that. You don't need a very big vision to work online and make money from anywhere, right? Like that's not crazy. So I think the first step is your metrics. Now, to be clear, that changes over time. Mine changed when I was young. When I was 20, my goal was to get passive income so I could retire at 25. And to me, that was like 2 steps. One was reduce costs and increase revenue. So I figured out a way to get costs down by living in India and spending $110 a month. And then I figured out a business that would make me $110 in passive income, which was AdSense. And like, then I hit that goal at like 21. Like I made enough money that I could live in India for the rest of my life, right? I like hit my goal 4 years early. I could retire. I was like, this is boring as shit, right? So, after that, I started to do more and more stuff to increase, like, you get bored when you do that. But my point here is that the next step, the next step comes down to so mindset. So mindset, vision, but at the end of the day, it's really if your goal is to make more money, it's really getting people to buy your product. And so it comes down to 3 things: people, process, product. What is the product you're selling? This is so core, and no one really does this. It's like you need to sell a product that people want. Everybody who's doing stuff on like ClickFunnels and shit, they're wondering how to optimize their landing pages and get more upsells and get more. They're not a product that people want. It's so much easier to sell a product that people want. I'm telling you, man, like I've been pitching Pavlok as a shop device for so long, and it's hard to get people to like have a conversation and be excited about it. But ever since I changed the pitch to get paid to do good habits, you can win up to $1,000 for hitting the gym. People are grabbing their phones and going to the website and saving it themselves, and they can't stop. They won't stop talking about it, right? Like the products that I was selling was not the right product, and so and it's the same product. It's just reframing the words, right? So I think the core problem that saw it. Like, look, man, if you invent, like Thomas Edison invented the first power grid that allowed people to get electricity in their homes, right? He invented this. That product was so fucking good that it doesn't matter what his funnel upsell campaign was. His product was so good that within less than a century, if you travel to a new place and there's not, would you ever go anywhere that there's not electricity? You don't even think of it like a product. Electricity is a product. He created a system to deliver this product. And it's so, like the first toilets were invented. This guy, his name was Thomas Crapper, which is a great fucking name. And it's like, he invented a product that was it used to be holes in the ground, and he invented a system that allowed people to have indoor plumbing. It was such a good product that he didn't need upsell campaigns or pitches or sales teams. He invented the world's best product, right? So people really should start by looking at the product they're selling. Because if your product is a digital course of any variety, you're already off to the races on it not being a good product, because people can't experience that product without buying, without doing extra work. They're paying you money to actually work. Right. That's why, like, the people who are making money online these days are not selling digital courses. They're selling the technology behind digital courses. They're not selling, they're not writing the content of emails. They're actually creating the email service providers that deliver the information, right? So the first thing I think is product. So make sure your product is good. Make sure your product is great. Ideally innovative. I can't even imagine doing a non-innovative product. So like, to me, I'm not the right person to talk about opening like a franchise, like dry cleaner or whatever. I'm not the right person. But like, if you're talking to me about like how do you create an innovative product, I just saw one product today. I just started using it. It's called Superphone, and it lets you basically take like an email service provider, but you do it over SMS. So you can create automatic campaigns that text people. So now, as of now, every single subscriber who buys the Pavlok, 15 minutes later gets a text directly from me, and then I reply to them actually personally on my phone. And to me, like, this product is going to be it's going to be the next ConvertKit. It's going to be the next Klaviyo. It's going to be definitely like a $20 or $50 million company. There's no chance it doesn't, because it's such a great new innovation on an already active space. How do you take marketing and how do you take email service providers and emails dying and convert it into texting, which is not dying? Boom, done. Put that, they throw in a WhatsApp communication mechanism, then perfect, I'm in. So look at your product first. Secondly is people. So who's around you, who's working? So people, process, product. So the first thing is product. The second thing is people. Who's working on the project with you? What's your team like? Are they people who are supportive and helping you grow? Or are they people who are helping you fail? I think actually, and then the next one is process. So it's like, what are the processes in your company? You can actually do a lot without process. I don't have a process because our team is so small. If you have daily calls with everybody on your team, and you don't need much of a process to execute stuff. But you just need the right people and the right product. But once you start growing, you have to have a process to deliver products to customers and everything. So I think that those three things are really, really key to building a great business that succeeds.
Yeah, definitely. So since you have such a small team, like, talk about a little bit like how you built your team. Was it just like contractors that you put together? Or did you bring everybody in house? Or like, how did you, was it friends and family?
Yeah, so early days,
Everybody
I brought everybody who would the early days I brought everybody who would work for me, which brought a lot of mediocre people. And then as I started to hire more and more, A players hire A players, but B players hire C players, and that's so true. And the second you start hiring B players, they are having trouble with their product, and they start bringing in other people because they think you need more people, and suddenly you're paying 4 people for a task that one excellent person would do. You didn't want to pay someone $100 an hour, so you hired a person who did it for $20 an hour, but now you need to hire 6 of them, and then you got to have a QA team that covers for them, and those are big mistakes that happen for sure. Whereas, like, I just started reworking with one guy who's my earliest employee. He left to start his own coaching company, grew it to $50,000 a month in revenue, and then he just rejoined the team half-time. We do daily calls. He does my marketing landing pages and sales pages, and having him work with me is like, it's fundamentally shifted the company. Like, I've been talking about launching this $29 recurring product for 4 years now. I've been talking about doing these like get good habits for 5 years now. And I've just never had a person who was just doing marketing work well. He's like with writing that I don't have to double check. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's always me making sure I'm smart. I'm a good writer. So I was hiring people who were affordable, and their writing was never good enough for me. So I would double check it and edit it. And so I was the bottleneck at the company. And so now hiring someone I trust, he alone, with just his first transform page A/B split test, the first project he did, we split tested it, and his first test alone increased my revenue by more than his salary, right? So like, it instantly, he was worth the price. And then ever since then, he came in and he created the recurring system, and now it's grossing recurring money. And so like everything, so one person can change everything. One person who's really good at what they do, who's trustworthy and excellent, can change everything. And I found that when you hire people, if you really want them to be effective, you need like I don't know, I will say this, that it's probably true for everybody, especially for at least the first couple months. Daily phone calls changes everything. Not once a week, not 3 times a week, and not just chat. A daily phone call changes everything. So having us have a daily call that's set at exactly the same time every day is really powerful, and it reduces the need for having managers. So one big technique and tactic I learned was that when I had a software team and a hardware team and a marketing team and a customer support team and a fulfillment team, I didn't really want to manage all these people. So I'm very resistant to managing and doing anything, actually. I'm very resistant to working. So I would hire managers who would manage these people for me. And those people would eat up money and create internal politics and create bureaucracy and become bottlenecks of their own. And I found out that I could replace a whole management layer by just having daily or weekly or bi-weekly or 3 times a week phone calls. So now I do 5 calls a week with my marketing guy, I do 3 calls a week with my software team. I do 1 call a week with my customer support team. I should probably do more. And then my fulfillment team is all handled via Slack. So I think that those are really important tactics.
Right. So is that pretty much like the only SOP that you have, is just have a morning call, or do y'all have processes that kind of helps you automate the whole thing? Like they know their task every single day of what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, on the call, I make a list of what we're going to do today. So actually, like, we try to create SOPs, and maybe other people are good at like process, and like he's like, okay, well, here, I got this Monday.com we can sign up for, and like, you know, we can put it all on here. Right. I'm like, look, bro, like, I'm on Slack. Let's just fucking put it in Slack.
Right.
And we'll put a note. Yesterday you did this. You're supposed to do this. Today you're supposed to do this, right? And we started there. Super simple. And so we just started with just having a daily call and having daily tasks, and how much can you complete today? And like, it's daily, so he's not going to be overshooting what he's going to do, and he's going to not lie. He can't lie too much when it's a daily call.
Right.
You know, it's pretty easy to lie when it's a weekly call, but it's really hard to lie on a daily call.
Right.
And so we do these daily calls, and it started off slow. I was like, can you make one version of a landing page? Can you make another version of a landing page? And he make another. He made one good landing page template. It took him like a week. And then suddenly it was a lot more fast to write new landing pages because the same template we just use over and over again, right? And then he was like, okay, well, can we make this page? Can we make this new quick ad creative? And he did, and now it's very simple for us to do it. And so because, like, in a lot of ways, we did create SOPs just by not creating SOPs. We just consistently are doing the same task. Right. Okay, let's make a landing page. So I find for me, that for me, what works really well is jumping on a call, having a phone call, and then typing out with bullet points just in the Slack what we're going to do. And whenever the bullet points start to get very large, I transfer it over to a Google Doc. Today I made one with him that's just like Daniel's February projects. And we listed out all the February projects. We'll work, and I copy that into the Slack channel. So on our calls, we'll Zoom, and I'll just share my Slack channel, and I'll share my Google Doc, and I'll be like, what's your status here? What's your status here? What are you working on today? What are you working on today? I'm very, also one big thing is that I'm extremely easy to like, I don't fire people. And I'm very easy to trick. Like, I'm very easy. I am not a good, like, that's not me, right? Like, I'm paying people who should not be paid, who should have been fired over a year ago, and I'm still paying them, right?
Right.
They'll probably make it for 6 months, right? Like, honestly, it's very unlikely I'll fire them. And so to me, like, hiring a bad person is like one of the worst investments you can make, because it's not like buying a $5,000 course. It's like buying a $5,000 course every month forever.
Mm.
And so, so to me, getting the right person is really critical. And so, you know, there's a lot of ways to interview, but I'm not the best at that. I like to just find people who have done great stuff. I find the best way to hire people, or the best way to get great people, is to do great things. Because no top tier A-level players want to work for someone who's selling a ClickFunnels affiliate course, you know, unless it's the best.
Yeah.
But it's like not very hard to get people excited. When I seduced him essentially to join my company again after he built a $50,000 per month company, like, I focused on the vision. I just laid out what we're doing. I was like, dude, we're about to build something incredible. What do you think? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So like, to me, it's like, find the right people to sell and build the right product.
Right. Well, and it's good to have people that see the vision and they know where the company's going too, because if they can buy into the vision, then they're going to stick with you longer. Because like one of my mentors said, you know, hiring is guessing and firing is knowing, you know, and then that's kind of what I've started getting into is whenever hiring on a person, you know, you fire them quickly if they're not a good fit. And I think that's a, you know, I mean, to each their own, I guess, on that. I mean, different people have different ways of doing things, but yeah, I definitely think that Pavlok's going to be huge with the vision that you were talking about earlier, and especially the experience. Another thing to think about on that too is like Disney World and theme parks, you know, because we just got back from Disney a while back, and we rode the what's it called? The Avatar movie, right? That experience was so incredible. And you know, like for you to think about this too, for Pavlok, it was like we were riding on the back of a banshee, right? The water would spray in our face whenever we would hit a wave. It was like you're riding a motorcycle kind of, and the like in between your legs it would expand like it was breathing. And having that total immersive experience, which I can see, you know, with Pavlok, I could see how that could be an everyday occurrence. And just the immersive experience of riding on the back of a quote unquote banshee. I mean, I didn't want to get off of it. It was a 4-minute ride, and I just wanted to ride it over and over again, you know. And people were waiting 120 minutes, you know, a couple of hours just to ride that one ride. So that's a thought for you there on that.
Yeah, a million percent. Like experiences to me, like I said, music to me is really an obvious one in the sense that like I think we could be delivering music. If you Google laser tag Pavlok, you'll see a company that created a laser tag gun that integrates Pavlok, so we get shot and we get a zap. And it would be fascinating to connect it to movies, because creating experiences like that would be like, you know, if you're watching Netflix. And you could feel I mean, you tell me, like you've got a Pavlok on, right? If you could connect it to your Netflix movie,
right,
and then it would vibrate your wrist as the show is going, like wouldn't you 100% try that?
Yeah,
like, there's no chance you wouldn't
for sure.
install that integration. Like 100% right. Install that integration, and like you'd play with it, and you know, if it's your thing, Netflix is happy, I'm happy, you know. And like to me, like I think a lot about video games having sensations and touch. We're trying to develop into the new Pavlok 4. So that's like Pavlok 3 is almost done. Pavlok 3 is a watch strap for your Apple Watch. And Pavlok 4 will have a screen. We're trying to develop into Pavlok 4. You know, have you ever used the TENS unit? Also, yeah, I guess I was going to say don't tell anybody this, but I guess on the podcast. You ever use a TENS unit, which is like those electricity massagers?
Yeah, on your back. Yeah, the TENS unit. Yeah, I've used those.
Yeah, so now you can use like recreate like multiple sensations, and it's like touch, squeeze, feeling, sensation. So we're trying to integrate that as our product. So our product won't just deliver a zap, but it will deliver touch in a million different ways. And like once that is able, now you can see how immersive experiences can actually be immersive. Because right now, a shock is a shock. It's not
right.
It's not a
yeah.
It's just a single instantaneous pulse. But if we're able to modulate the frequencies, then we can start creating actually touch and sensations and things that people have never felt before. And I think that that's where integrative experiences can happen. So I appreciate your idea, and I think that we'll definitely want to implement it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, awesome. So I have a couple of questions here. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No. Let's definitely try to wrap it up. I can answer a couple more.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So it's just a couple of quick questions. What is your favorite business book that you've read?
Anti-Fragile.
Anti-Fragile? Cool. What is your what's your favorite thing to eat? Tacos? Nice. So if today was your last day on earth, what would you want your legacy to be, or what would you want to be remembered by?
The guy who reinvented world currency away from being paid to do what other people want you to do, to be the guy who changed money to you get paid for doing what you want yourself to do.
Awesome. Well, and then the last question is, if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you? Are you on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook?
Pavlok.com. You message me on Facebook. Yeah, I reply on Facebook. So Pavlok.com, Instagram, or Facebook. I reply on Instagram probably more. So
yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks, Maneesh, for being on the Whiskey with Winners podcast. I appreciate you. I love your product. It's great. I hope everybody goes out there and checks it out, pavlok.com. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out. And I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, your home for real and raw stories of industry titans. Make sure to click the button below to subscribe. Follow our journey on Instagram at Most Interesting Marketer and Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Remember to always stay humble, stay hungry, and stay focused.
Everything that I'm saying is out of context. Wait, it's not even really a contest. See, if you already know, then I'm next. Looking at a bodybuilder like Y-Flex. I'm dope in the pot like it's Pyrex. And I do it big just like a T-Rex. A T-Rex, I'm the best to ever do it. You know, could be so dope when he float to the fucking music. Like, this shit is nasty for real. Yeah, I'm dope. You don't even have to ask me for real, man. Damn, I think I'm going long, I'm going hard. Woo. Who you know could come up with the bars? I'm a shooting star. I shine bright in the fucking night, and they can't tell me that I'm doing wrong. I do it right, like I'm at the top. So who you know could really top that? Yeah, and tune in to the podcast.